The Sixers found their man last night in VJ Edgecombe with the 3rd overall pick. What's next for tonight, round 2, pick number 35. We'll get into that a little bit later. Alongside Kyle Newbeck, I'm Devon Givens. Tyler Zulli producing the show. PHLY Sixers show on a day after round 1 is presented by Rothman Orthopedics. Rothman Orthopedics. Check out rothmanortho.com/PHLY to make your appointment today. We'll get into the second round selections a little bit later. Some of the targets that Kyle wrote about at allphly.com. While we're here to talk about that, let everybody know that we still do have our intro offer to sign up to become a diehard member. Join the community that's running through July 4th. You sign up at allphly.com for the $36 intro offer. Make your move and make it now to sign up at allphly.com, which you have on there currently for the Sixers. Kyle's instant reaction last night for VJ Edgecombe, selected at the 3rd overall pick. And then this morning, dropping another one for some of the targets for the Philadelphia 76ers as we await the start of the second round tonight, where they will be picking once again at selection number 35. We'll get into all of that a little bit later, but make sure, again, you make your move now. Sign up with a $36 intro offer. Kyle, how you feeling, man? You get enough rest? You good over there?
No, I did not get enough rest, but neither did any of us, right? Like I'll say, I texted our fellow coworkers at PHLY today, but wanted to really say thank you to everybody that came out last night to the Boozy Mutt, had fun at the draft show. Thanks to our production and sales staff that made, obviously super producer Bree, but also Julia, Nick, Ethan, just whole team effort last night was really cool to see it all come together and go down like that. And I know a lot of them are tired today too. So the show goes on, as they say. And I'm feeling good for multiple reasons, Devon. One, I think I'm absorbing the energy that I'm feeling from a lot of the fan base right now. And look, I know that's not everyone. I know there were people who wanted a different pick, whether it was Trey, whether it was Ace, whether it was Con Knipple even, or whoever it might have been. But I think after people have taken some time to get to know this kid a little bit, they watched VJ give some interviews last night, the outpouring of emotion. He's on the phone with Jared McCain. He's talking about, I just hate to see people score. Like, it just makes me sick to my stomach when other guys score on my team. Like, they're starting to see some glimpses of what we've talked about and what we've heard from people who have had close connections with VJ. And so I'm starting to see, after months and months of misery this past basketball season, and then this last month and a half where there was optimism but a lot of fighting, I think now it turns to, hey, this is Philadelphia's guy, right? And I think one of the things that you notice right away is VJ is really excited to embrace this opportunity to play with this veteran, star-heavy team, play with Tyrese Maxey in the backcourt, play off of Joel Embiid. Who was he talking to? I think it was Taylor Rooks last night, where Paul George has compared him to like a young Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
And VJ Edgecombe says something to the effect of, man, I've been watching Paul George my whole life. I'm not trying to call him old, but it was like, he's just, you guys are going to get to know this kid a lot better in the months and the years ahead. But I feel happy because I can feel the happiness coming from Sixers fans. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
Yeah, and look, he has to earn their trust, their respect.
Of course.
all of that as a player, and that's going to be in due time, and it's going to take a lot. But the way that he sounded, Kyle, last night after we were done, because during the show, of course, we couldn't hear any of that. We can maybe read some quotes and look at some video without any words, no closed caption, to really understand what he was saying.
We can judge the fit, right? We can say,
right,
hey, how does the suit look? How do the sunglasses look?
Exactly. So to come back home last night and even continue today to try to catch up on Taylor Rooks and that conversation, or the Monica McNutt conversation where he had a chance to speak to them, speaking to the local media about his selection there at pick number 3. While we've heard all those good things about him before from all the intel that you got, people that I may have talked to about similar things about the kid, the person, we had a chance to speak to Scott Drew, that it was really refreshing, to your point, to hear him talk the way he did, maybe pull some of those Sixers fans in a little bit more that were a little reserved about the selection because they liked another player, whatever player that may have been, and to hear the story about the background, the fact that while we were promoting Pico last night as one of our reads during the show, he's talking about how he and his family had to live off a generator for 7 years and what they had to work through to get to where they are right now. His brother speaking about him crying, and he never cries, but he and his mother are so proud of what VJ saw as a vision, and to have it play out the way that it did through leaving the Bahamas to go to New York, then to Texas to play at Baylor, and landing in Philadelphia as a number 3 overall pick. In a draft where we talked about there's a lot of talent. While it was a certain tier for Flagg and Harper, and he was a part of that next tier, but he had to work to move up into that tier for many, many, many weeks, many days, many months, where it was Bailey or Trey Johnson or early on Agor Demon in those conversations, where he went through an entire collegiate season.
By the way, man.
Yeah, I know. He went through an entire collegiate season to move himself up into that place. So I think just listening to him talk about it, the joy, the excitement, where for so many times, man, like Ben Simmons, you were unsure if he wanted to play here. If even the reaction, whether it was an overreaction or not, where people were really, really Zapruder filming Joel Embiid sitting on that couch and saying he didn't look happy. And Ace Bailey last night, maybe not looking happy. The discourse that's about around CMB in Toronto, there's no doubt that kid, VJ Edgecombe, is excited about being the Philadelphia 76ers. So with that, it was really good to see excitement after 24-58 season. The player coming in and knowing that he's going to have to earn his spot, hearing that he knows that he's also going to have to work to crack into that rotation and gain the respect from the all-star that he talks about, a former MVP that he has discussed, and the old guy that he knows still has respect in this league, and so much that has to be done. That's where it was fun to see all this stuff play out for him last night.
Yeah, and look, so I think one of the things that Daryl talked a little bit about at his presser last night, his press availability, and one of the things you're starting to see emerge with who they're picking and how they're, adding to their young talent, they are getting workers, right? They are getting culture builders, right? And we talked a bit about that throughout the draft process, but you go back to why Tyrese Maxey has overachieved relative to his draft position. You look at why Jared McCain came in and relative to his draft position surprised a lot of people, right? Like there were doubts about, including from us, right? We sat there on draft night and said, look, we don't know if this kid fits here. He is a smaller guard. He does have some overlap with Maxey, and we don't know if we'll get on the floor. We were expecting more of a Dalton Connect, like a bigger guy, someone you can play in some different lineups. And what Jared did is come in and show that the work habits, the process, the film study, the attention to detail, that all that stuff far outweighed, guy's got a little bit more size, guy might have a little bit more lineup versatility. And that's not to say that VJ is not versatile, right? Like the thumbnail on this show is Swiss Army knife. He is a guy who's going to be moved all over the lineup. He's going to be able to play with different people. But I think before you get to all that, it starts with, this is a bet on a kid who's got outrageous physical tools in terms of the explosiveness, the lateral quickness, all that stuff can just, jump through the ceiling type of kid. But there are a lot of guys like that. There are a lot of guys who are significant athletes. There are players that tested better than him at the combine. There are guys every year that you put them in a setting where they just have a dead sprint or they just jump really high, and then the lights turn on and they're in the game and you don't see it. What you see with VJ is he weaponizes the tools that he has.
Yeah.
And then you add on the work ethic component and you say, I don't know what his ultimate ceiling is, right? Like, I don't know what the mold of player is that he eventually becomes. But what you do feel good about is this kid is going to take his natural born gifts and he's going to maximize their effectiveness for as long as he possibly can. And so when you have a future core that includes a kid like him that already has a Tyrese Maxey, that Jared McCain is a part of, you go even further down. You look at someone like a Dembona, right? Really hard worker. Someone we saw make real tangible progress last year. Justin Edwards comes off of a tough year at Kentucky, undrafted. They bring him in, and Justin, puts himself on the map, gets himself a standard NBA deal. And what we've heard about Justin during this offseason period is he's been one of the most frequent guys in the gym since the season ended. He has been a mainstay in the Sixers practice facility. So all of a sudden, you've got like 4 or 5 guys, 24 and under, who all have reputations of, these guys are gym rats. These guys are going to be in there, and in many cases, be in there together. Justin Edwards is flying out to Dallas to work with Tyrese Maxey in the offseason. And so we've suffered through some guys that you would say have some loser energy around here, right? Talented guys that maybe are not bringing the right things to this organization. This kid, on top of being a very good and productive basketball player, is bringing the right stuff. And so I really appreciate that on top of valuing the production, the Sixers are really doubling down on guys who are going to build something here that might last for a long time.
Yeah, so the culture that they're building, that they're trying to establish here, along with the veteran players that we know at some point, their careers are going to start to tail off, while you can step right into it where Tyrese Maxey has done so for a few years, seeing Jared McCain a year ago and now VJ Edgecombe and how that could potentially play out. It's clear that's, and as Daryl Morey said last night, it's clear that is an approach that they decided that they wanted to take and taking one of these players. It's not to say that if they decided to go to Con Knipple at pick number 3 or Trey Johnson at 3 or some sort of trade down for either of those two, that they wouldn't have been doing the same thing. But this guy clearly was at the top of their list on the board, presumably following Flagg and Harper and getting to VJ Edgecombe at number 3 to make him the selection for the Sixers. So if that's what they're doing, then Kyle, we've seen it so many times where we just sat through. You mentioned the J-Dub interview, for the Oklahoma City Thunder after they won the championship, and how he talked about with Scott Van Pelt the culture that they have, the people that they have, the stuff that stood out more than just the basketball, which were the dinners, the late night flights, getting in at 4 a.m., this film session with Chet Holmgren after a flight or after practice in the hotel room, where those things mean something. And then that synergy on the court also plays into it because of what you do off the floor and developing that relationship that spills over into an actual game where you know the tendencies, understand things. You can trust your teammate to make the right decision. Or even if you make the wrong decision, that it's not one of those showing the bad body language, flailing your arms and all of that kind of stuff. It's just, hey, man, we got the next one. You see a leader like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, those guys make mistakes. All he does is turn around and go the other way. You don't see a lot of shaking the head or pouting at anything. And we'll see how those things now translate to the floor, because we know that they're going into a new era. You just want to see if Embiid and George can still help in a way that you feel, especially in today's Eastern Conference with all those injuries, where they can maybe put a dent in it and get 76er fans excited again for an opportunity that will be there for a lot of Eastern Conference team to crack through And they should certainly be one of those in those conversations. We don't know where he'll be a part of it. He said it, and we'll talk more about it. VJ Edgecombe last night, that he understands. I don't care if I have to come off the bench. I'm just going to go in there and play a role. But what you're going to get is competition, because that guard room, if Quentin Grimes is back like we believe, the competition is going to be fierce in that guard room. Let's talk more about that on the other side, Kyle, of how he fits again, some of the things that Daryl Morey said last night post draft to speak about their pick with VJ Edgecombe, giving an update on Joel Embiid. We'll talk about more of what Edgecombe had to say, as well as we hang out with you the day after round 1, but the day of round 2, where the Philadelphia 76ers have the 35th overall selection in tonight's second round of the NBA draft. We'll get into some of those targets a little bit later, right here on this Thursday on the PHLY Sixers podcast. Bet365, folks, got to tell you about them. 90 million users worldwide, over 90 million users worldwide, with live streams of 780,000 events each year. Early payouts across the NBA and the NHL when they do return, and live in-game betting. And listen, let me tell you about some games tonight that you made. First, let me tell you about some of the boosts that they have, like a bet boost right now where they have the Marlins against the Giants. They have a boost there. They have a boost against when you look at, let's see, first base sluggers with the Braves and the Mets, where you can jump in, boosted from plus 1,400 to plus 1,600 with Olsen and Alonso, 1 home run apiece. You have those types of options at Bet365 there for you at the palm of your hands with your phone. So when you check them out right now, your local baseball team down 1 right now. But if you feel like they're going to come back, they are a plus 2.5 run dog right now against the Astros. They're minus 160 though. So if you're feeling good about that one and you think that maybe I'll just take the money line, that's at plus 350 right now for the local baseball team to come back against the Astros. You do so by signing up right now, if you already haven't done so, as a new customer to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up, use code PHLY365, deposit $10, place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bets wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And guys, just like the Sixers need home court advantage, you need your home floor advantage, right? And Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. You've probably been to a big box store where you wander the endless aisles. You're bringing all the materials home yourself. Then you have to look for an installer. You got to coordinate everything. And maybe they have a flooring department at this big box store. But the person who's working flooring today, the next day, they're working on sinks. The day prior, they were stocking light bulbs. You don't know that you're getting a real expert. It can be overwhelming going to those places. Empire just simplifies the whole process, and all they do is flooring, so you know you're getting the best. They bring the showroom right to your home that you can pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space and see how it looks with your furniture and your house. Get precise measurements taken, and all your questions are answered there. No surprises. Empire Today gives you clear, upfront, all-inclusive pricing, plus you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. You don't want to wait. You find the right floor, you find it for the right space, get it in there as soon as the next day. Schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home. PHLY listeners can receive a $350 discount when using the promo code PHLY. You heard right, a $350 discount with the code PHLY. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHLY for full details.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast. Trust the process, Kyle says. I freaking love flooring. In the chat. All right. Freaking love flooring. We appreciate it.
You know who else we freaking love, Devon?
Who's that?
Our good friends at Shady Rays, where the future is bright.
You read my mind, because that's where I was going. Future is bright, presented by Shady Rays. Got some future. We got some bright futures for VJ Edgecombe. Maybe Tyrese Maxey in the backcourt with him. Jared McCain in the backcourt with him. You mentioned Justin Edwards. You got some young players there, man, where the future could be bright for those young guys on this 76ers basketball team.
Yeah, so let's start getting into the on-court fit, Devon. I think a lot of the process has been spent, as it often is, right? We talk about people's weaknesses. And I
Sure.
think over time, this happened to Ace Bailey too, right? It becomes like, oh, Ace Bailey is bad at this. And then it's Ace Bailey's the worst passer in the history of basketball, which is not true. With VJ, it's, hey, his left hand is not very good and he's got to tighten up his handle. And then it becomes VJ Edgecombe can't dribble a basketball. Like that's not true, right? And so where VJ fits in is as this Swiss Army knife type of guy in the backcourt in these multi-guard looks, but especially next to Tyrese Maxey, right? Is VJ Edgecombe someone you want to give the ball to at the top of the offense and run high pick and rolls every possession? No. You're primarily going to ask him to be a second side attacker, someone who is playing off of advantages that other guys are creating. Well, here's the good news. They have advantage creators. They have Tyrese Maxey. They have Joel Embiid. They have Jared McCain. They have Quentin Grimes, or we think they're going to have Quentin Grimes. All of these guys are players who have at least some track record of they're able to tilt some defenses. And especially in the cases of Maxey and Embiid, they're guys who draw a lot of attention and they're going to create openings for other guys because teams are going to sink into the paint. Teams are going to double them. Teams are going to do things to get the ball out of their hands. And in those situations, VJ is ready from day one, right? Like he is an instinctual player when it comes to he's on the opposite wing. He's in the opposite corner. Ball swings to him, has a good sense for when it's got to be a shot, when it's got to be a closeout attack, when it's got to be an extra pass, and making those decisions quickly. And by the way, when he makes the decision to drive quickly there, he's an outstanding athlete. That's when you see him just one quick dribble, blow by, get to the rim, dunk, right? Like he's going to put up a lot of dunks in those situations. Now, one of the things I think people are curious about is like how much can you run the offense through him? And while he certainly is nowhere near like a Dylan Harper, right, who would have come in here and we would have, a big part of the sales pitch is you can get Maxey off the ball. You can get Jared McCain off the ball. Use them more as movement shooters. But I do think VJ has some better upside as an on-ball guy than some of the critics or the Ace fans or whoever have been alluding to during this process here, right? You go back to watching him in the Bahamas where he's running those actions with DeAndre Ayton and Buddy Hield and Eric Gordon with some real NBA spacing to play in. And he's turning the corner. He's getting to the basket. He's making pick and roll reads. I think when he was able to play as more of a lead ball handler at Baylor, which wasn't all the time, but there were stretches where he played without Robert Wright, without Jeremy Roach, guys who are pretty ball dominant guards themselves, who frankly are not the greatest shooters in the world. When they're able to spread it out and put him up top, you can see the passing vision there. You can see a guy who, if you have a Maxey playing off of him, is going to create some opportunities for other guys. One of the, this is a lower priority than maybe the backcourt fits, certainly, but in bench groups, right, where it's a Dembona on the floor and you're playing a rim running athlete at center,
Mm-hmm.
VJ had a lot of success setting up bigs for some stuff around the basket. I know Devon, the lob king of PHLY, loves an alley-oop from a guard.
Toss it up.
Big. I think you're going to see a lot of those if VJ gets some on-ball reps with the bench guys. But I think the main thing offensively is just that you're going to be able to use him all over the place. And he's such a smart player that, if Joel Embiid is getting doubled at the left elbow, right, which when he's on the floor, that's going to happen quite a bit. Yeah. VJ has an outstanding recognition of when to cut, where to cut to, where the opening is, has the speed to get there before anybody else is, and to pick up the easy ones, right? He didn't get to play off of, guys who were getting doubled all the time in college. It was a lot of having to create out of isolation, as a second side guard. They're not actually actively running him through a lot of stuff. And so I think what you're going to see with some real NBA spacing and real NBA teammates is that while he's definitely got some work to do as a creator, there's still a lot of stuff there to work with from day one, while he also comes in as a pretty ready-made defensive guy who will help Maxey and will help Jared McCain.
When we were evaluating a lot of these guys, the only one that we gave real thought to starting was Ace Bailey, if he was the selection. Everyone else were really going to have to earn their place and find their way on the floor. And he will, just like everybody else most certainly would have also. But for him, is the fact that we've talked about the unselfish way that he's going to go about it, earning it. And he's not a perfect player, just like everyone else. After Harper and after Flag, everyone has their flaws. He has to tighten up on a lot of things on the offensive end. But what he will do is, I'm glad you brought up the finding the open spots out there on the floor when the double team happens, whether it's Embiid or someone else, cutting along the baseline, flashing to the middle of the paint to make yourself available to get that basketball and make a decision from there. Maybe when he does flash to the middle of the paint and the defender decides to close on him, there's also another player cutting from the weak side. Let's just say it's Kelly Oubre, and maybe that's a layup or a dunk or the lob that you're talking about to a Dembona, because his defender, his man, has to make a commitment to go after VJ Edgecombe, and then he tosses it up to the rim to finish. And we saw a lot of that earlier with some of the reserves with Bona and, along those lines where we saw some of that stuff happen, or even Paul Reed in the past, where some of those guys just found some rhythm with those types of players in that second unit where he can get it done. So if he's a sponge and can pick those things up and understand where he needs to be out there on the floor for those veterans to be just, again, available. They see it, they know it. They're going to pick that up very early from training camp, knowing that that's a possibility that he's going to be there. So when they do get double teamed, you bring up Embiid, he's going to know that that kid is most likely going to flash to this spot. And that's just that muscle memory. That's just going to have to be picked up. Overall, he's not going to have plays called for him. It's just not going to happen. They'll maybe tinker here and there and say, all right, let's get VJ this spot here and see how he works it. And he'll get somebody on his hip. And he'll, I see a lot of people in the chat talking about not being able to run the pick and roll. Maybe that stuff will come. Maybe that stuff will get there for him where that's much, much better. You pointed out some of those plays that he made at Baylor where oftentimes the ball was in Wright's hands or Roach's hands, and they were the ones doing that stuff. But when he did have it, there were some positive signs that he can maybe advance his development with those types of plays on the offensive end. We did not coach the team. Every coach that came on with us, of course, they're going to pump up his guy. But the way that you saw or heard Scott Drew say that, hey, man, he has a chance to be able to run an offense in the NBA also, and he can do that. Kyle, I'm curious how much we see that, even if Jared McCain is playing Summer League, how much we do see the ball in VJ Edgecombe's hand to the point that everything that you just laid out of giving him some of that that experience, even in a setting like that, where we know it's a high leverage situation because they're not they're draft picks there. And then there's also those guys that are just simply trying to make a roster or put some film out there and see if they can latch on somewhere. And so there's going to be that competition where if they do give him the ball, I want to see what it looks like. The same way that we saw with Quentin Grimes when he had the ball at the end of the season. I want to see what it looks like with VJ Edgecombe in the Summer League setting. So he's not a perfect player. He's going to have to earn his keep. That stat sheet stuffer that Scott Drew told us about, that's how he's going to keep himself on the floor and making positive things that the coaching staff can check off and say, all right, the kid is getting it. Now I trust him to maybe do this next when we call his number in that development overall, from Rico Hines to Reggie Redding to TJ DeLeo, all the stuff that they're doing, that they figure it out together and they just start to see the little boxes check off. And we always talk about the positive of he's going to go after the 50-50 balls. He's going to try to get in the passing lanes. He's going to get those deflections that they keep track of. That's a really big deal in the NBA. those are things that are certainly going to keep him on or get him on the floor. The other stuff that you mentioned that he has to improve on, if he works on it, if he gets it, that's what's really going to keep him on the floor.
Yeah, and look, a big part of the sales pitch is the perfect defensive fit that he is next to either Maxey and McCain, right? I don't think any of us are looking at Maxey McCain as like they are definitely going to be able to play together long term, right? We want to see it. We're going into this offseason saying we'll wait and see, right? Give it a year, give it 2 years, however many reps you think you need to try to get a sense for, can these guys hang on the floor together? I don't have much doubt about the ability for VJ to go out there and succeed alongside one of those guys, right? I think the vision there is he's going to take the toughest assignment out of the backcourt, right? And while there are some issues in terms of, if you're bringing back Quentin Grimes and you're going to play Grimes a lot, Grimes does fall more in the, he's probably more of a backcourt defender. He can defend some threes, but is not quite a wing, right? Like he's a little bit bigger than VJ, right? And I want to say he's got like a 6'8" wingspan and he's about 6'5", somewhere in that range. So similarly sized players. And so there's going to be some overlap there. But I think when you look at teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder, you look at teams like the Indiana Pacers that are playing some of these multi-guard lineups, and they're not all small guards, right? They're guys that are 6'4", 6'5", and can pass assignments along, are guys who play hard, are guys who can take you off the dribble. They're reliable shooters. They can do a little bit of everything. This is the way that the NBA is kind of moving and has been moving for a long time. And especially with Jared coming off of an injury, right, where we'll see what he looks like. Tyrese Maxey coming off of another season where he's having to carry just a gigantic offensive responsibility. You do need to make sure you're not just running your best players into the ground, right? So Edgecombe helps with all that too. But I do think that like people are underselling the upside on him a little bit right now. I'm not sitting here telling you he's going to become all these, the comps that he's getting to Oladipo or the, smaller Jimmy Butler and all that stuff. But like one of the most, it's a very different type of player. But I'll bring it up again. Derek has talked on the show about a lot of times what people miss when they miss on scouting is not the skill set, but how much better did this guy get from, 2 years ago to now, from 1 year ago to now. And VJ came to the States, and for a little bit, for a year or two, he's basically just an unheralded guy. And then all of a sudden has this just massive leap forward. He wins. And for the people who are, hey, he's Zaire Smith, he's Jaden Springer. VJ Edgecombe was back-to-back Gatorade State Player of the Year in New York, right? Like, this was not a kid who was just this, like, maybe he's like the 120th recruit in the class. And this kid was the best player in the state of New York in back-to-back years, top 5 recruit going to college, goes to college, and in a good conference at a program that's a respected program, super productive all over the place, right? This isn't some kid who's like tricking people. This is not some like he had 2 good months or 1 good month of basketball and just flew up the charts, right? Like if they had taken somebody like a Cedric Coward or somebody crazy at number 3, and I like Cedric Coward, I would understand a little bit more of the
Hanson Yang, man.
But you're talking about a kid who has shown like a meteoric rise over years, right? And has done it in hostile environments, against good teams, against grown men in international play, and has done a little something different depending on what the game has asked of him, what the team situation is. And those are the types of players that win, right? The guys who can just adapt. Hey, maybe my shot's not falling tonight, but I'm going to get 3 or 4 steals. Maybe I turn the ball over a little too much tonight, but I'm going to make up for that with a ton of rebounding. I'm going to get to the foul line. I'm going to make 11 to 12, right?
Or even if he turns it over and it's a live play like that, Kyle, that he gets back and maybe makes the possession to prevent a basket.
He had, I want to say, I have to go back and look. I want to say he had 5 or more games where he shot like 10 plus free throws at Baylor. And as he tightens up some of the stuff with his handle, as he grows into his body more, as he works on the gathers, the process on, getting to his all the way to the rim rather than always trying to take off from a little bit further away. This is a kid who plays with physicality, who's going to get to the free throw line. And look, all the great things we say about Tyrese Maxey, that's been one of his problems as a pro, right? Like he does not get to the line for the type of player that he is as much as he probably should. And some of that comes down to the process of how he plays. So he just offers a lot of interesting counters and complementary skills next to Tyrese and next to Jared. And yeah, I think ultimately when push comes to shove at some place down the road, they might have to make a decision just to round out the roster a little bit. But for right now, you say we have 3 or 4 really good guards that are 25 and under that we feel good about. And we're going to let these guys compete every single day in practice. We're going to make them compete for minutes. And we can play 2 or 3 of them at a time and feel very good about the amount of ball handling, shooting, and defensive flexibility that you can put on the floor.
Absolutely, man. And I want to make sure that we let everybody know that was our full segment on the Shady Rays Future is Bright. Future is Bright, presented by Shady Rays. And that is VJ Edgecombe and maybe the entire Sixers backcourt, all 4 of those players together. Can't wait to see what that potentially looks like. When we get back on the other side, Kyle, when you were talking about, hey, he's not a perfect player, there's some things that we need to address overall. I want to ask you about that on the defensive end. I'm going to throw something at you on the defensive end, that question. I don't know that it's a worry, but just more of a question to see where his defensive chops are once he gets to the league. We'll talk about that. And we'll start to talk about the targeting of the 35th overall pick and some of the players that Kyle wrote about at ALLPHLY earlier this morning. We'll do that when we get back right here. It is Draft Day Live, round 2. We'll have our show tonight. We'll tell you about that and more too, right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. All right, folks, and I got to tell you about my good folks at great spot, Parks Casino. They had some pretty good stuff going on last night with, the second game of the series in Houston, which is game 3 today. They had so many other things happening overall on Bet Parks online because of the game. And you can do that right now, even with Bet Parks online, by going to your Parks Casino that we know about, that we tell you about, exit Street Road off the PA Turnpike, and bang, you're right there at Parks Casino. But if you can't make it and you simply want to go out there and, do your thing on the app, you can do so. There's always that way. Of Bet Parks online casino app. Check out brand new casino games like Huff and More Puff and Fireblaze Sky Queen, a Bet Parks exclusive, the only app I ever use to play all my favorite casino games right here in the palm of my hand. Play blackjack, roulette, craps, poker, baccarat, or hot online slots like Cash Eruption, 88 Fortunes, and Cleopatra online. New users, if you're willing to sign up, you get up to $1,000 in casino bonus bucks back if you're down in the first 24 hours. So go to betparks.com, download the app right now, and enjoy all the action and excitement from the casino right there at your fingertips. You must be 21 and in PA, New Jersey, Maryland, or Michigan for Bet Parks. You love to play, you love to win, you bet Parks. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
And guys, got to tell you about our good friends at The Art of Words. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and this local Philly artist proves it. Each piece made entirely from handwritten words, like every Eagle player, forming the link, every Philly, shaping Citizens Bank Park. But it's not just sports. You can look at Boathouse Row, Reading Terminal Market, the Philly skyline, the Jersey Shore. These are unforgettable gifts for sports fans, grads, housewarmings, Mother's Day, Father's Day, but really just any occasion, right? And it's a local guy, local story. He started selling at the K-Lot and Rice's Flea Market. Credits Philly fans for launching his career. If you're not a Philly person, right? Some of you are just Sixers fans who are living elsewhere, who are rooting for other teams. There are dozens of other teams and cities too. There's something for everyone. Check it out at artofwords.com. That's artofwords.com. Use code PHLY at checkout for 15% off of your purchase.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast presented by Rothman Orthopedics. Make sure you visit them at rothmanortho.com. rothmanortho.com/PHLY. We have our draft day live show tonight, round 2. Kyle, myself, Rich, Derek, all together. Bree will be back in the house. Tyler's hanging with us this afternoon. We appreciate Tyler. We'll be with you at 8 o'clock for the start of the second round, where, if I'm not mistaken, Minnesota is still on the clock with the 31st overall pick. So Minnesota will start off round 2. The Sixers at 35. There are a lot of names that we're going to talk about here shortly that Kyle wrote about at allphly.com. So again, go sign up to be a diehard member for $36 with our intro offer, which is the Make Your Move offer. So go sign up, make your move, join the community, and you get to read great stories like that one from Kyle that we'll discuss a little bit later. All right, man. Defensively, he's stronger than he looks, but he still needs to build up his body, and he's going to have to compete against players like Donovan Mitchell. He's going to have to compete, Kyle, against players like Jaylen Brown as well, and so many others in this conference that he's going to have to match up with. Are there any concerns that you may have defensively early on as a young player where, as you said, he might be the guy that gets the top assignment in the backcourt? While he may match up against second units, he's going to match up against some first units as well. And there's some really good guys in the league. Do you see an issue early on, at least as a defender, for him?
I don't think he should be asked to guard the true wings right away, is the thing, right? That's not a him problem. That's a team thing. And, excuse me, I think one of the things is their only real on-ball wing defender that you trust a little bit right now is Oubre. And you want Oubre's role to be diminished a little bit. You want him playing less minutes as you add these young guys, as you bring Justin Edwards along. We've seen Justin Edwards have some flashes as a wing defender, right? But certainly not with any degree of consistency. And that's something that he's going to have to be better at next season, because he is a guy who's more built right now to defend the wing types, right? I don't know what VJ's ultimate guy that he can guard will be over time. What I will continue to say that I've mentioned on the show, he's coming into the league at the same age and almost identical measurements as Jrue Holiday. And Jrue Holiday is one of the most versatile, has been one of the most versatile defenders in the entire league for probably 7 or 8 years at least, right? When he hit his prime, that was a guy who could guard most guys 1 through 4. He's situationally guarding bigs. That's a really optimistic outcome for VJ, right? I think more realistically, he's going to be a killer point of attack guy. He's going to be able to guard twos. And I think he'll guard the quicker wings, the smaller wings. I don't know that he's ever going to guard on a full-time basis the jumbo wings. But I would say, like, of course, on-ball defense matters. Of course, all that stuff is important. I think the good thing with him is he also is a dynamic off-ball guy. Now, I would caution against, I think he might be slightly overrated there in the sense that the steal numbers are probably inflated by the style of zone that Baylor plays at times, right? Where you can sit back and jump into passing lanes and inflate it a little bit. They're not playing all zone, but they're playing enough that you say, okay, let's see how that looks at the next level. On the other side of it, Nick Nurse does play an aggressive ball hawking defense. He's going to empower VJ to just, they're going to try to force turnovers, right? If he wants to over pursue, if he wants to gamble, I think the coach is going to tell him, go right ahead, and they'll live with some open threes that they'll give up as a result of that. I just think there will need to be a little bit of restraint shown that he didn't show at times in college and even in the Bahamas play that we watched, where he is athletic enough that he can get back into almost any play, Devon. But when you're up against NBA level athletes, even if you're in the same caliber, you don't want to give them a big window because you closed out too hard. You sold out for a steal too hard, because it's just that much more difficult at this level to get yourself back in the play.
Yep. Figured I'd ask you that. I was just curious. And maybe I'll ask the guys a little bit later tonight when we all get together for the show. 8 p.m. right here on our PHLY Sixers podcast, the Draft Live special. All right, man, let's we have some super chats. We also have just to kind of give people an idea of your piece at allphly.com. We're going to talk about a lot of these guys tonight as well, but you have some priority targets at allphly.com that you put together for the Sixers in the second round. Number one, let me ask you this before you give the list of some of the guys to, tease people. Are you surprised that maybe one or two are still remaining in the second round?
I'm not really. Honestly, the guy that I'm most surprised by might be Kalkbrenner, just because I thought a team like the Phoenix Suns might get in there for him. But then they trade for Mark Williams. They draft Malawach, and that rules them out as a possibility. And he is a guy that, like, while he has that elite skill, and we've talked about him on the show, he's not going to be for everybody, right? So I think some fans and some analysts might have been surprised by the Rasheer Fleming fall. He's the obvious name that I think should be at or near the top of the board for the Sixers. But if you guys have listened to our show all week and over the last week and a half, all the intel I had was his range started at 20, but that I thought the Sixers felt good about the potential for him to, a player like him, right, but him specifically, to fall into their range around 35. So without giving away too much of the story today, I normally, Devon, when people, I always laugh when it's like, this guy played in Philly, the Sixers have to draft him, right? And a lot of times it doesn't work out or it's not a good fit or whatever. This is the perfect case, right? This is the absolute stone cold, go get the local kid, because his weaknesses do not really matter within the context of the Sixers, and his strengths are exactly what they need, right? Big body, great athlete, huge wingspan, engaged defender, has some issues as a defender, but is generally an engaged defender, and frankly someone who likes to gamble. So that's somebody that Nick Nurse will probably say, go get that weak side shot block, go after that steal and that passing lane. We saw this past year during his junior year at St. Joe's. He shot the ball well for the first time ever, and I think as important as shooting the ball well, Devon, he's a confident shooter. Ball got to him, and he's going up quick, and he's not
no hesitation
too much about. There's very few record scratch moments, right? So we really like to see that. We've seen a few too many players on this team that are record scratching possessions. So all this stuff, and then add on the rebounding on top of that, right? I think his pursuit of the ball is good. He certainly has the tools where he's 6'8", 0.25 without shoes, with an over 7'5" wingspan. You put that guy at the 4 next to Joel Embiid. You put him next to Bona, right?
Yeah.
Those two guys chasing shot blocks around the rim. And you can simplify his role so much that all the stuff that's maybe he can't create shots, he's not a passer, he's not this. Just ask the guy to go stand there and shoot threes. And otherwise, one of the really nice things about him, he's got awesome instincts off the ball. He has a good understanding of, I need to slide 3 feet to the right here to open something up for a teammate. I got to cut here. I see some space to move into. Very good instincts as an off-ball player. I would be willing to trade up to get him.
So he's your number one. Right now, he's your number one.
So I technically ranked,
because I already know I know the other guy. For some people who may not know, I know the other guy.
When we did our big boards, I technically ranked Thiero higher. The problem with him is that his shot is just broke, right? And so Fleming, you sort of get the best of all worlds. He's got defensive stuff. He's got the rebounding, size, the shot. I would be willing to trade up to that first pick with, I think it's Minnesota, right? Is at the top
31.
of the second round.
Yep.
Charlotte's got a couple in front of you. Like, if you get any sense that, I think they want to trade back a little bit, is what the rumor is, that they might trade back from one of those. If you get any sense that one of those teams is interested in Fleming but is willing to move off of him to let you move up, I think he is a perfect fit, and I'd be willing to give up a little something to ensure that you get him.
So, folks, make sure you go to allphly.com to read that piece from Kyle. I would say it right now, flat out. We were on with Anthony this morning, Derek and I, and my number one was Rasheer Fleming. So I'll just give that right now. But if you want to read the piece and see some of the other names that Kyle has there at allphly.com, please do. And go check it out. Again, you can get in there if you haven't yet done so by signing up with our Make Your Move offer, intro offer for $36. And that's going to go through July 4th. So I really appreciate everybody checking that out. It's a really good piece, really good read. So go tap into that, because there's some names there, some pretty good names that are still there on the board at 35. And you hope that they can come in and give you a couple of minutes here and there a night if it's possible. See them in the G League a little bit with the Blue Coats, but certainly suiting up for the Philadelphia 76ers and seeing if they can add something to it. All right, man, let's get to some of the super chats, because we do have 6 right now that I see, and we gotta start tapping into a few of those. Let's go to That's Crazy, who says, wanted Trey or Khan, but not too mad at this pick. To be honest, the Sixers need a strong work mentality guy like him to change their culture, along with Maxey and McCain.
Can't argue with that. Preaching to the choir on that one.
Exactly what we talked about a little bit earlier. Let's go. You know what, Tyler, That's Crazy had another one, so we'll just go through with That's Crazy, saying, do y'all see them bring a guy like Tom Thibodeau as an assistant to coach defense now that they drafted VJ Edgecombe? I would sense that he would just sit out this year, collect his money, because he still has like 3 years left on his extension that he signed last summer.
Yeah,
I would say that he just sits back, That's Crazy, and just relaxes for right now.
He's going to collect the New York Knicks head coach money and not take Philadelphia 76ers lead assistant money until or unless he gets another job. Tom
I like
Thibodeau
where your mind is, though.
He'll look for a media job before he takes an assistant job.
Right. That little pocket change that he gets from TV after making all that money from New York.
That'd be nice.
That's a good question, though. We understand where you're coming from with that. When we go to Marcus Blackstock next, imagine Ace having to be in the house by 7 p.m. every night in Utah for 3 years because outside of hoops, there's nothing else to do. LOL.
Here's what I will say about Ace in Utah, Devon, and we did talk about this for anybody who missed the live stream last night. I don't know why you would, but in case you did.
Yeah.
I do think once Ace gets over that he didn't want to be in Utah, that it is a good situation for him, because I think it's the sort of coach that can get the best out of him. Will Hardy is a big, like, running a lot of set plays guy. Like, they are well known around the league as they're very intentional about what they're running. Now, you didn't see a lot of that this year because they were shamelessly throwing away the season. But this is not a situation where Ace is coming in. Like, he'll get plenty of opportunities, but he's not coming in and just being thrown the ball and being told, hey, go figure it out. So as a basketball and an organizational fit, I actually like the Jazz as a Ace Bailey landing spot, because I think they can help bring him along in the way he needs to, focus on the stuff that he is good at and then begin to scale all the things that he's got to work on.
But I do agree. He'll be in at 8 o'clock curfew, video game time, man. Just go hang out.
Or in the gym. That'll make it better. The Ace fans should be happy. Can focus on hoops.
Go in the gym. Appreciate it. Thank you. Riaz says, did Morey get bullied by Ace's agent? I just don't buy the canceled workout, and Ace's preferences didn't matter. It did matter. Take the best player.
It absolutely did not matter. Like, we said it for months, right? He was not the consensus third player in the NBA draft community, right? Talk to teams, talk to people all over the league, right? there are certainly people who were like aces, not just 3 but 2, right? You'll find people like that, but by and large, this idea that Ace Bailey was a consensus 3 was just simply not true and never was true. And I tried to tell people that in like April, right before all this stuff happened. So the idea that like because he didn't work out, Daryl Morey, who cares less about all the intangible stuff typically than most GMs around the league, didn't draft a kid because of one cancel workout. It's pure fantasy. Like it just did not happen.
All right. Thank you for that one, Riaz. We go to Bootszilla. Boots! What do you think of Maxime Reynaud or Kobe Brea as towards the back if we don't get Fleming?
So Brea, I think, would be tough, right?
That's a way down the list. Yeah.
Yeah, like elite shooter. Like,
yes,
just will shoot the absolute hell out of the ball. And they need shooting. That I am not disputing that would be helpful. I think Reynaud is higher on the list for me just because he's something different, right? He is a shooter, but he's a shooter with size. He's somebody that, and as you think about these lineups with VJ and Maxey and whatnot, we saw what Yabusele did for Tyrese Maxey, at least offensively, last season playing the 5. As of right now, they don't have a stretch big option. And I do think it's something that they need, maybe not for the playoffs, but just for sometimes you got to throw that stuff out there in the regular season. So while he's lower on the list than a Fleming or a Thoreau for me, I don't think that would be a crazy pick for them at 30.
Can I throw this at you with him? This is certainly not the guy that is probably going to be talked about as a Hall of Famer and has won championships, All-Stars, but older Kevin Love, that role of how he's that backup spacer where they have more of a traditional 5, but he's the one that those different types of lineups with that different type of guy to spread the floor where he's that type. I'm not saying he's slow Kevin Love at this age or anything like that. No. I'm just saying that type of, that's the vision, that type of guy.
No, listen, Devon, he shot 44% on spot-up threes this year. And he actually shot poorly on pick-and-pop shots, but he took more pick-and-pop threes than any player in Division I last year. Like, that's who he is, right? That's, if you draft him, that's what you're looking for him to do. The nice thing, too, he's a good closeout attacker, and he was a good college rebounder, right? So, like, normally you think of, stretch big. It's this, like, pasty white guy who also is super skinny and just gets, like, thrown out of the way. And, like, look, he's not an overwhelming physical guy, certainly. Defensively, I have major concerns about him. But he at least is a good rebounder. You know, for a guy who took all these spot-up shots and catch and shoot threes, I think he got something like almost 3 offensive rebounds a game. That's tough to do when a lot of your time is just being spent on the perimeter. So this kid's a good rebounder, can shoot the ball a little bit. So I would have some interest. He's not the priority because of the versatility or lack thereof.
But you clearly see the skill set and why it would make sense. Absolutely. Yep. All right, we appreciate that question. We'll talk about them a little bit later on tonight. We go to Sanj saying, fill in the blanks. VJ is the blank best entry passer on the Sixers. That's part 1. Do you have an answer for that one?
He might be the best, honestly. He'll be in the conversation. I still think if Lowry's on the roster, it would be him.
I might actually give it to McCain. Quietly.
He's definitely in the combo for sure.
Yeah, I think I might actually give it to McCain. Second part, VJ's rookie dunks over-under number is. That's a tough one. I put it over under 27. Because, I mean, we're talking.
I'm hammering that over.
I don't, because the half-court stuff I don't know. Is we look at transition, and that's where a lot of that is going to happen. Where's your number? If you're hammering it, where's your number?
I think you could talk me into like 50 plus.
Honestly. 50 plus?
Because you think about, he had 37 dunks at Baylor with far fewer games played and having to do a lot more self-creation. So I think it could be 50 plus.
All right. Boots says over under 45.
I think that's a good number.
All right. That's a good number, Boots. You got me on that one. Quick overtime, everybody. AllPHLY.com. Thank you so much on the television side. Head on over to allphly.com for overtime here. I actually thought I would be able to get us through without any overtime, but hey, man, I turned the ball over a couple of times, or I got too comfortable dribbling the basketball, and we let them back in the game. So
you took a contested mid-range too many times.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. All right, now we get to the Pump It Up segment of the Super Chats.
Pump it up.
Pump it up. You're not worried about that VJ was clamped up by Rico Hines in one-on-ones at an empty gym? Buddy got to be in his 50s. 13, 4, 5 stats. No excuses.
I love that we're just writing fan fiction now. Like now that Ace Bailey was drafted 5th by Utah, we've resorted to just writing fan fiction in the Pump It Up segment. So good to see you, B Pump. At least you didn't disappear and go into hiding like 13, Teacher Got Game, who once again, I will say on the show, promised a $500 super chat if they didn't draft Ace at 3, and he did that like 2 days ago. So this was not like this was like, hey, he did it a long time ago and forgot about it.
Yeah, he's been hiding. We don't know where he is. By the way, 13, 4, and 5. I don't know about 13. I don't even know if I would go that high for a rookie season for him, just on this team. More like 8, 7, 8 somewhere. He'll have those 13 double-digit games, but I say more like 8 something and something on that one. All right, final one, B-Pump. These Wade and Jimmy comparisons are comedy. VJ has the career outlook of someone like a Darvin Ham.
Oh, my God.
Guy who only knows how to dunk. Run and dunk, man. Thank you, Pump.
I'm good.
We appreciate it.
No more commentary from me. It's a brief overtime. Let's get out of here.
And
hopefully the Sixers come away with Rasheer Fleming tonight.
Exactly. By the way, we do have a trade already. The Brooklyn Nets trading the 36th overall pick, a pick behind the Philadelphia 76ers. That is tonight in this draft. So we'll see where that one may be. Let me see. I just want to get the final details as they traded it. We'll talk about it later. Here's where we'll talk about it tonight, Kyle. We'll talk about it tonight on PHLY Sixers Draft Day live show, round 2, beginning at 8 o'clock, live from the studio with Derek, Rich, Kyle, and myself. Bree will be back in studio as well. We hope to see all of you in the chat later on tonight so we can have a conversation about the second round. The good thing about it is, just like last night, we're going to know really early. Whatever happens is going to happen pretty quickly for the Philadelphia 76ers tonight. Minnesota is on the clock at 31, and then you have a few other teams in between the Sixers at pick number 35. Also, before we get to the show tonight, if you have not heard our conversation with Baylor head coach Scott Drew, please go check it out. Go back into our YouTube page and find that conversation that we had with head coach Scott Drew as he talked about VJ Edgecombe, Jared Butler. He also talked about him a little bit in there in the conversation that we had last week with the head coach from Baylor, raving about his player and what type of person he also is for the Philadelphia 76ers. So go check out all of that if you could, and make sure you join us tonight at 8 p.m. for round number 2 as the Sixers will pick at number 35. Kyle, Tyler threw that up there for us, so everybody, no excuses. You know exactly where it is now with it. Roll call?
Roll call time. Thank you,
Let's
everybody.
Get some roll call in there.
For being here, as always. Again, the excitement just flowing right now through Philadelphia. Finally, a little bit of hope, dare I say, some excitement about your Philadelphia 76ers. Thank you to Doug Craig, to Ramid, to Marty Bones, to Marty Marr, to Mom's grandchildren. What's up to Mom?
Hello. I haven't talked
to my girl Nona. It was good to see Nona.
It was good to see Nona. Yes.
Along with many of you. We got, I'm just making sure it's Pablo. I thought it was Paolo for a second. But
what up, Pablo?
Thank you for being here, Pablo. Bootzilla, Irish Saxman. Hey, Aaron.
What up, Aaron? We missed Aaron was there last night, apparently. We missed Aaron.
I missed him. I didn't get to see him. I didn't get to talk to as many people as I was hoping I would last night. So I apologize, but I'm glad it seemed like everybody had a good time. So
they did.
That was
it seemed like
that was fun. Lee Nguyen, who I know was saying earlier, very excited about Hanson Yang going so high in the draft. Yang Gang is out here.
Called him Jokic.
I gotta say, man, all-time draft moment. Him just rising up out of the crowd, and it's this giant man. I thought that was great. Our guy Al, the 2-minute warning.
What up, Al?
That's crazy.
That is crazy, taking Yang at 16.
Densley, who says, please, Sixers, get me a player that's over 6'8". Rasheer Fleming, come on down, brother.
Come on down.
Hey, by the way, one last thing on that in the middle of the roll call.
Yeah.
If I were an agent of one of these guys who's like a forward or a 3-4 type, I would be telling every other team, do not draft me. I'm going to Philadelphia. Minnesota, kiss my ass. Charlotte, no thank you. Go get Omar Cooper and make sure you get to your destination.
Oh man, as soon as you brought up Minnesota too, all I could think of was Rasheer Fleming, Naz Reid role.
Hey, listen, Rasheer Fleming. I think he's a clutch guy. Get Rich Paul on the phone with these teams saying, I need to get to Philadelphia. There is money.
I need to stay home.
To be had.
Stay home.
Meet me at home. Anyway, thank you is that Cactus?
Whoa. Got a new Cactus?
We got Michael. We got Rick.
What up,
Morse.
Cactus?
We got Rick Sachs.
Go get him, Rick.
We saw it last night. Josh Baker. We got Sanj.
What up,
Derek
Josh?
is hanging out in the chat. Hello to Derek, who still hanging out with us in spite of the fact that he should have taken some time to himself this afternoon. What a guy. What a teammate. We got X-Man. We got Love Christ. There's that. Who else do we got?
X?
Phil W. I'm very sorry, guys. My brain is on the floor today. We got the Truth.
What up, the Truth?
All right. I think that's probably. Did I hit all our super chatters? We had Navon.
You got all the
Navon, who I think was more of a Trey or Ace. We got Mary, JS, INS, Marcus.
We got everybody. We can roll call it tonight also.
Yeah,
we'll roll call it tonight.
We'll see you again tonight at 8 o'clock. And if I don't get to you then, it's because I really don't like you. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications every time we go live. And hit the thumbs up button to say thank you to Tyler
hanging out
today, because Bree is on the night shift with all of us tonight and gets a well-deserved break in the middle of the day today. So thank you to Tyler. Thank you to all of you. We will be back for the second round live stream at 8 o'clock tonight. Be there. It's Rasheer Fleming time, baby.
We all silly like the mayor.